Okay. So we were talking about the functional requirements. We were studying about the functional requirements, and we have studied that how we can identify the high level functions, and we can identify the user interactions, the system output, how I can draw the high level function and all. So the first thing is, how do we identify the functional requirements? So it's a matter of practice, and it's a matter of subjectivity that with passage of time, after doing a lot of case studies, after seeing a lot of case studies, an idea is formed about how do you identify which one are the high level functions and which one are part of the high level functions. That means they can be represented as a sub level functions. Now, the next topic that we should learn is how to document the functional requirements. So the functional requirements we have been talking about a lot. So how to document this? So once all the high level function requirements, they have been identified and the requirement problems have been eliminated, so then they should be documented. So once you have identified all the high level functional requirements and the problems have been eliminated, you should document this. So a function can be documented by identifying the state at which the data is to be input to the system. So it's input data domain, it's output data domain, and the type of processing that is carried out on the input data in order to obtain the output data. So how do we function the how do we document the functions? First, we identify is my voice not reaching on? Are you guys able to hear me? Are you guys able to hear me? Okay. So how do we document the functions? That first we identified the state at which the data is input to the system. Then I identify the input domain. Then I identify the output data domain. And then I identify the type of processing which needs to carried out on this input data to generate the output data. So let us now understand this with the help of just the like the withdraw cache example which we have learned. With that only, let us understand that how, if we are asked to document the withdraw cash function of an ATM system. How do we document this? So the first thing is we are asked to document the withdraw cash function. Fine. So this withdraw cash function, it's a high level requirement, and as we have seen that it has several sub requirements corresponding to the different user interactions. So these user interaction, they vary from one user to another depending on some conditions. So different interaction sequences can occur and different scenarios can happen. Now we need to describe a functional requirement that must document all the different scenarios that may occur. So if suppose this withdraw cash from the ATM, this is one we are asked to document this. So an initial informal description of a required functionality is usually given by the customer, and it is told as statement of purpose. Okay. So this statement of purpose, it serves as a starting point for the analyst, and he proceeds with the requirements gathering activity after a basic understanding of the SOP. So whenever suppose we are asked to document this withdraw cash function, suppose we are asked to document this in our SRS document. So what will happen? First, an initial informal description of this functionality is given by the customer. So this is known as statement of purpose. Once the analyst will have this statement of purpose, he will proceed with the requirements gathering activity after basic understanding of this SOP. But however, the functionalities of withdraw cash from ATM is obvious to like, even if I am saying using this as an example, but it is obvious to anyone who has used an ATM card. Okay. So since it is obvious to an exam or to any person that how this withdraw cash mechanism works, so for this I am not showing the SOP. So I will directly start with how we document the functional requirements. But generally what happens is, if not known functionality is there which the analyst needs to identify, then he starts with the SOP. So the first requirement is, our first high level function is withdraw cash. Right? And here some description I need to put. After writing each high level function, you need to write the description of that function. So suppose in description I am saying that the withdraw cash function, it first determines the type of account that the user has and the account number from which the user wishes to withdraw the cash. Then it checks the balance to determine whether the requested amount is available in the account or not. And if enough balance is available, it outputs the required cash, otherwise it generates an error message. So what all is expected from this withdraw cash function, these all are written in this section. These all lines which I have just told, a brief about this withdraw cash, it will be written over here. Now this is the first high level function. Under this, there will be several low level, like sub level functions. Suppose first one will be, just we have drawn that picture, select withdraw amount option. So if select withdraw amount option is there, what will be the input and what will be the output? The input will be that the withdraw amount is selected. Until and unless you press that option, how come you will able to withdraw the money? So the input is that withdraw amount option is selected, and output is that user is prompted to enter the account type. Fine. Next, what was there? Next, there was select account type. Here, what is the input and what is the output? So the input was that user selects an option from any of the followings. So there can be a savings account. There can be a current account. There can be a deposit account. So a user will have to select any one of the account. And what will be the output? After the account is selected, the user is prompted to enter the amount. Right? So this is what happens. After this, what will happen? After this, there was get the required amount of money. So there was R1.3, there was get required amount. Here, what is the input? The input is amount to be withdrawn in integer values greater than 100 and suppose less than 10,000 in multiples of 100. So I will have to give such an amount which will be in multiples of 100 and so on, so forth. And what will be the output? The output will be the cash is, the requested cash is received and the printed transaction statement is received. Right? So what is the processing? The processing is that the amount is debited from the user's account if sufficient balance is available. Otherwise, an error message is displayed. And what is the output? The output is that the requested cash and the printed transaction receipt statement is generated and the requested cash is received. Now, this is an example of how the withdraw cash from ATM, this type of high level function, it is written in the form of writings in your SRS document under the functional requirements section. Now, let us solve another example. Suppose search book. This is another, suppose search book availability in library. Okay. So again, an initial formal, informal description of this functionality is given by the customer, which is known as SOP. And based on this SOP, the requirement gathering phase is carried on and so on. So if I am talking about this functional requirement search book, then how will I document this in case of functional requirements? So my requirement is what? My requirement is search book. So with my higher level requirement, I will have to associate one description, and the description is how this search book function will work. Those things should be elaborated in the description so that the developer team, by looking at the description, they are able to identify that how this function is expected to work. So whenever you are writing a high level function, you are requested or just with the high level function name, there should be a description associated with the high level function. So what can be the description? The description can be that once the user selects the search option, he would be asked to enter the keywords. Now, the system would search the book in the book list based on the keywords which is entered by the user. After making the search, the system should output the details of all the books whose title or author name match any of these keywords which is entered. So the book details is to be displayed, which will include the title, the author name, the publisher name, year of publication, ISBN number, catalog number, location in the library, and so on. So how do we search a book? We first give the keyword, a matching algorithm is run on the database, that is the processing. And if it matches, some outputs are given, right? So this is the high level function where I need to describe and know. In the low level function, I need not need to write the description. There, I need to write the input output. So first one is select search option. Select search option, what will be the input? The search option. This is the input, and output is the keywords. The user is prompted for the keywords, right? This is the output. Then what will happen? Then there will be a search and display. What will be the input? The input are the keywords which are entered in just the above phase. And what is the output? The output is the details of all the books whose title or author name matches any of the keywords which is entered by the user. So the book details would be displayed, which will be include the title of the book, author, ISBN, catalog number, number of copies, and so on. So the processing is done is what? The processing is done is search the book list based on their keywords. This is the processing which is done. The book list is searched based on the keywords. This is the processing. Now, this is if I am talking about search book. Suppose I am talking about renew a book. Different high-level functions will have different functionalities. Suppose I am talking about another function, renew book. So whenever I am describing a function, declaring a function, I need to give a description, and this description will be in words, right? So the description can be that when the renew option is selected, the user is asked to enter his membership number and password. And after the password validation is done, the list of the books which is borrowed by him, which are displayed, and the user can renew any of his borrowed books by indicating which book he wants to renew. So requested book, if it is reserved by some other person, it cannot be renewed. So in this case, one error message will be displayed. Fine. So only those books which the user has reserved, it can be renewed, else it cannot be renewed. So these all things will be written in this description in words. Next will be the lower level functions. What will be the first lower level function? That select the renew option. And what will be the input and what will be the output? The input will be that renew option is selected, and the output will be a message is given to the user to enter the membership ID and the password. Then another next will be that the login is happening. So next one will be a login. So what will be the input and the output? The input will be that the membership number and password is given, and the output will be that once it enters that membership number and password, the output will be that the list of books which is borrowed by the user, it is displayed, and the user is prompted to select the books which he or she wants to renew. So if the password is valid, and if the password is invalid, the user is asked to re-enter the password. This can be the output. So the processing which needs to done is the password validation. So what are the processing which needs to run? Password validation. Then another is search the books which is issued to that customer. So from the borrower's list and display, it will be able to search the book. So another thing can be 2.3 can be that your password, like your password is valid. So if your password is valid, some functions will be there, and if password is invalid, other functions will be there. So let us think that my password is valid. So if my password is valid, then what can be the function that I will be asked to renew? When I will have to select some books which I want to renew, right? So what can be the input to this thing? The input can be that the user choice for the books which he wants to renew out of the books which is borrowed by him, right? And the output is that confirmation of the books successfully renewed and a message for the books which cannot be renewed, right? So here what is the processing done? The processing is done is that it is checked that if anyone has reserved any of the requested books, then renew, it will be only able to renew the books which is selected by the user in the borrower's list. So if no one has reserved those books yet, then it can be renewed. Otherwise, if already my book is reserved by someone else in the coming 2 days, then I cannot again renew my book. Okay. So in order to properly identify the high level requirements, a lot of common sense and the ability to visualize various scenarios that might arise in the operation of a function, these are required. So when any of the aspects of a requirement, such as the state, the processing description, the next function to be executed, these are obvious, then it becomes easier to understand that how can we select a high level function, or how can we document the high level function in words, and how can I document the lower level function in the form of input output in words, such that when this document reaches the development team, it becomes easier for them to make or build the software. Okay. Next is the factor of traceability. Traceability means that it would be possible to identify or trace the specific design component which implements a given requirement, the code part that corresponds to a given design component, the test cases that test a given requirement. So any given code component, it can be traced to the corresponding design component, and a design component can be traced to a specific requirement that it implements, and vice versa. So traceability analysis is an important concept and is frequently used during software development, so that from design to code, code to design, we can always go back. So by doing a traceability analysis, we can tell whether all the requirements have been satisfactorily addressed in all the phases. So it can also be used to assess the impact of a requirements change. So traceability makes it easy to identify which parts of the design and the code would be affected when certain requirement changes occurs. Okay, so it can also be used to study the impact of a bug that is known to exist in a code on various requirements. So once I am able to trace one code section or something, then it becomes easier for us to understand that in due to inclusion of which part of the code that changes has occurred. So for this reason, traceability analysis is a very important factor. And to achieve this traceability, it is necessary that each functional requirement, it should be numbered uniquely and consistently. So proper numbering of the requirements makes it possible for different documents to uniquely refer to specific requirements. So if I do not write the numbers, suppose 2.1, 2.2 and 2.3 and so on, if I do not write the numbers, then it will be very much difficult for us to access that due to the inclusion of a new code snippet, which section of my requirements, which part of my requirements is affected. So due to this reason, the traceability analysis is very much important. Next, we talk about the organization of the SRS document. So, as we talk about this organization part of this SRS document, now IEEE 830 standards, they have specified certain organizing in a certain way the requirement specification document into several sections, but they also allow the flexibility of modifying it, because largely this organization of this document to a large extent, it depends on the preferences of the system analyst himself. So the way he wants to organize, he can do that. But there are a few ways, at least a few topics, which should be there in the SRS document. So first we talk about the introduction. Now the introduction section should describe the context in which the system is being developed, and it should provide an overall description of the system and the environmental characteristics. So the introduction section, it may include the hardware that the system will run on, the devices that the system will interact with. So under this introduction, there is a section called purpose. So this purpose section, it should describe where the software would be deployed and how the software will be used. Then there is project scope. it should describe the overall context within which the software is being developed. So parts of a problem that are being automated and the parts that would need to be automated during future evolution, all these things will be included in the project scope. Then there is environmental characteristics, right? So the hardware and the software, so the environment with which the software will work, it should be displayed over here. So the introduction part has a purpose part, project scope, and the environmental characteristics, right? This is the introduction part. Next is the overall description of this SRS. Then there comes the product perspective. Product perspective means this section needs to state as that whether the software is intended to be a replacement for a certain existing system or it is a new software which is developed. So if the software which is being developed is used as a component of a larger system, a simple schematic diagram can be given to show the major components of the overall system, several subsystem connections, external interfaces, and all that. Then there is product features. So this section would state the major ways in which the software would be used. Okay. So very less time is remaining now. So I will stop over here. So I will just share the screen so that you people can do your attendance. Okay, so everyone please mark your attendance, and after marking your attendance, you may leave the class.